Now I want to turn to Tom Farrell for his scratch building segment. Now we're redoing, are going to, Tom is going to redo the one that we had for last week. And the reason for it is we just weren't happy with how it came out because of the technical difficulties, and we just couldn't clean it up enough with the edit that Earl Hackett was able to do to really get it to a quality that we felt comfortable with. So we've asked Tom to just redo that whole segment if he doesn't mind. And Tom, thanks so much for doing it.
So this evening I have part 4 of the Turtle Creek and mining scene. I'm going to go through a few different projects within this Turtle Creek scene this evening. This is what it looked like approximately 2 weeks ago. So this was the Tipple and how much of the scenery that I had completed. This evening, I'm going to go into I named this Tipple the Monongah Coal Company. And I hope you don't mind indulging me in a little brief history lesson. There's a story behind the Monongah Coal Tipple. I'm from Western Pennsylvania, and we have all these Indian names for our rivers, like the Susquehanna, the Allegheny, the Monongahela. This is actually in West Virginia, but it's from the same nameage. The Monongah mine is actually was the worst mining disaster in the history of coal mining in the United States. Way back 117 years ago, 362 miners were killed virtually instantly. A very small number they figured were trapped, and they eventually died in the mine. They figure that when you're coal mining, there's a lot of combustible gases there. And they figure either a spark or a carbide lamp. These guys use, I don't know if you're familiar with carbide lamps, but they have a flame on them. Anyway, if you don't properly vent a coal mine, these gases get trapped and they're combustible. And anyway, so as I said before, it's considered the worst mining disaster in American history. And like many mining operations at the time, the owners, Fairmont Coal Company and others, prioritized the output, the tons per hour, the tons per day, the tons per week, at the expense of safety. And the consequences could be brutal. I remember even in the 60s, the big Thanksgiving mine collapse killed a couple hundred miners. It went on for years after this. The public finally, even 100 years ago, was getting a little tired of hearing about these mines exploding and killing all these men. So in 1910, Congress created the United States Bureau of Mines. Part of that was to try and institute safety programs into these mines. The Bureau was abolished in 1996, but replacing it was MSHA, which is the Mine Safety Health Administration. MSHA was instituted to prevent mining injuries and fatalities, and it really worked. I think a lot of you know that I ran the largest dimensional stone company in the world, the Indiana Limestone Company, and MSHA was always, I mean, they never tell you they're coming, they just surprise you, and you have to let them in. And sometimes the size of our company, they'd send in a whole team, and they would just go over everything, your paperwork, your miner safety cards, your just thorough. And the consequence was the dramatic decrease in fatalities and injuries in the mines. It's still, mining is still the most dangerous occupation in the US, but MSHA has made a significant improvement in that. This is my other mine. I had two, this is my California mining aggregate operation on an island. We were so isolated, there was no bridge. The only way you could get to this island was a boat. The M Shaw guys came over in a canoe one day. I couldn't believe it. I said, "How'd you get on the island?" Because normally they would call us and we'd send a boat and pick them up at the dock. They said, "We took a canoe over." I said, "Well, okay, that's ambitious." Anyway, I always embraced the M Shaw people. I thought it was better that we run a safe operation rather than hurt or kill somebody. Which brings us to the Monongah Coal Company. I named it in a tribute to the worst mining disaster in the US, because I have not a connection to coal mining, but I have to tell you, not so much my aggregate operation in California, but Indiana limestone was a very dangerous place, or could be a very dangerous place. And so this was my way of just showing a little respect to my mining coal tipple here. So I've named it after the mine in West Virginia, the number of miners killed, and then the year of the accident. So if anybody ever visits Bloomington, Indiana, my layout here, I will have a little backstory on the naming of the Monongah Coal Company. So continuing on with the build, enough with the history lesson this evening. I needed to add railings to my decking. So I marked these off in 1-inch increments, which are equal to 4-foot sections. I just took a ruler. That's a nice thing about working in O scale, 1/4 inch equals a foot. Then I put these 4x4s, which is 1/8 material, cut 4 feet high, and super glued them on there. And then I put railings on of, these were 1x4s. I super glued them on here. You can see an up close of how that red looks. I'm very pleased with that look and the roofing. Next up was the tipple itself, the supporting members. There are these little grant line nuts. I use these all over on my tunnel portals, timber tunnel portals, and on some of my wood structures. These are, as it says here, a 2 1/2 inch square nut bolt. What you do is you take your pin vise with a small drill bit, a little larger diameter than this plastic bolt. You just simply drill the hole, put a drop of super glue in there, and insert the bolt. Then I go back later with a paintbrush and just touch the bolt head with a rust color. It really adds a lot of detail for very little work. Just takes a lot of patience. You can see some of that work right here. It just is a nice touch. That way it doesn't look like magic's holding it up. So what's left to this tipple is the tipple has to be fed by a conveyor. The conveyor typically runs into the top of the tipple. This is not an office building. This is just these windows are here for light. The tipple will run into the side of a mountain. And the theory is that this tipple is used for sorting or crushing. And then, of course, I have to glue the building to the tipple. It's just sitting there right now. And then I have to add some brackets and bolts here where, just a bolt wouldn't do it. I need a bracket, like if anybody recalls on my timber tunnel portals. They're easy to make. It's just styrene. I'll feature that next week. And then these chutes, I will basically skim these with, coat these with a very thin plastic to represent sheet metal. I'll use some of these rivets. It'll appear as though they're riveted together. Just be a nice detail. And then I'll put some gates in here and some sort of mechanism. The whole reason I put the deck up here was to have some sort of chain gate system, which I have to figure out. Next up, I said we'd be jumping all around. I like to add fences all over my railroad, and I like variety, so it's not just a cookie cutter. I don't have any sheet metal fences on the new version of the Rustic Buff and Old Gothic. The sheet metal that I prefer, and I've used a lot, I've used paper sheet metal, I've used styrene sheet metal. My favorite is this Northeastern. It's actual aluminum. It's thicker than aluminum foil. It's just a nice material. You have to, since it is metal and not a paper or plastic, you have to prime it. And I use this unobtainium rust. So several of you have, one of you even contacted Rust-Oleum to see if they still make it. Apparently they don't. So any orange, off orange color would work. This is simply a base color and give my acrylic paint something to stick to. This is an enamel. Now to make a fence, I needed some sort of brackets and railings to hold it in place. So these are 2x6s. These are 4x4s up here. I poured this weathering mix, medium brown, into this little cup, soaked these 4x4 posts, and then I simply painted these with a paintbrush, and I marked them with at 2-inch interval, which is equal to 8 feet. So there's 1.5 feet scale height, and this fence will be 44 scale feet in length, which is 11 inches. So there's the frame for my metal fence. This is 8 feet high. Some of this gets buried into the scenery, so you're really a little over probably 1.75 feet is showing. And then I just super glued. I took that sheet metal that I showed you and painted it with some rust colors. These are still base colors. And I randomly cut, shaped these pieces and glued them randomly onto this frame that I built. Then I went back and I took some Floqual old silver, as much as I despise using Floqual with its toluene and other toxic vapors that come off of it. And I just hit it, the whole fence with this old silver. Still not complete because I will add pan pastels to this. And that's the finished fence in place on the layout in front of that coal tipple. And you'll see no penalty, no dumping under penalty by order of city commissioner. I just made that on PowerPoint. It's like an ode to John Allen because right in front of it is, well, you'll see in a moment, is a dump. This is where the coal cars back up to the tipple. They stop here. A couple of weeks ago, Pat was concerned that my rail cars had run off or the engines had run off. Well, I put in these bumper stops, these back stops. They're quick to make. I think that's a 8x8 or 12x12. I can't tell from the picture. And just they would be heavy wood, so I used heavy wood. And then these are those bolts again with larger washers. But it's a nice quick detail you can make. And there is in front of the tipple. Remember, no dumping under penalty by order of city commissioner. You see how well the citizens adhere to that. And this is just a casting, I think, from rusty nails. Same with this. This is resin castings. This is simply scrap wood. This is a brass tube, brass tubing, just miscellaneous stuff. This is a little chemical spill going on here. Next up is the weathering of a scratch-built water tower. This was featured on my old layout, but I hadn't weathered it. And it's stained. There's very light weathering on it. And you can imagine I hit it with this white acrylic to start. And I was very nervous about that because I mean, this looks basically perfect. And now I'm painting white paint all over it. I didn't feel like making another, so I had to get this right. And what I did is I added black, and then with that black, I mixed it with the white, and I got some grays. So there's a good blend because they're all from the same paint. It goes from white to light gray to dark gray to black. It's to simulate algae and mold and miscellaneous weathering. These foundations aren't weathered yet, but I'm working on it. There's another view. Remember, no dumping. And next time, I will feature a brick road right to the right of this brick railroad crossing, right to the right of this tower. This is a collapsed tunnel. I haven't really weathered or finished this. This scene will be next. In here, I'll have an abandoned rail track going into this abandoned fallen in tunnel, as if the main line used to go that way, but now it goes that way. And a couple other things. This should be finished by next week. If anybody has any questions, I'll entertain them now, but thank you for having me, Jim.
Thank you so much for doing it, Tom. It's beautiful modeling. Anybody have any questions for Tom?
Yeah, I do, Tom.
Uh-huh.
Can the spelling on mine, how do you spell that?
What I put, is that wrong?
I'll let you look at it. What does it say?
Mine. What did I do?
M-I-I.
Oh boy, 5 years. 5 years.
Father mentioned it online. I just thought it.
5 years of college down the drain.
I love it. That's all right. Father had mentioned it, and I said I better.
Not on the in the presentation. Yeah. Okay. All right, we're clean on the model. That's good.
That's good. It looks good. It looks real good.
Well, we can always redo it, right?
That's right.
Next time that will be fixed.